Hello, Greg. Thanks for joining me on Porter Soup.
Hey, all, good to be here.
Yeah, good to have you. You have no idea how excited I am to be talking to you.
And I'm so excited to be a part of this wonderful program that you started.
Thank you so much. So let's just get right on it. This topic, I kept debating it for a long time to see if it will capture if it captures really the essence of our discussion, because our discussion is a little bit, everywhere, but I think I like it, living life and present.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's something that I just realized, and I think I can say that that's probably one most important thing that I have discovered after more than 30 years of living on this earth. And I'm glad I discovered that. So let me just get right to you. So, sometimes we're living life, just like I said earlier, but we're not really, really present. Why is it important for us to be present?
Well, first of all, I'll say that you discovered at 30 years, which is much faster than me, because I think, honestly, I truly discovered it at 50. So later on, there were points in my life where I discovered the importance. And I think the whole idea of recognizing the importance of being present, we all know deep down inside how important that is. It's important because we're so full. Our minds get so full of things and stuff to do and those kinds of things. And what I've discovered personally, and I think you've probably discovered this yourself, is when you are present, you actually see so much more that's happening around you. It might be your relationships, it might be ideas, but I think we're so full that often we miss that. So important to being present is really both discovering yourself, but also discovering what's around you.
Yeah, thinking retrospectively now, I'm trying to imagine when I wasn't aware, I was just living and going and following, especially with, having, gotten the debrief of my Enneagram type. I discovered how I would say sheepishly following life, following people, and the kind of person that I am. I'm trying to imagine for someone who is in my shoes right now and trying to, listen to this, our chat. What are the baby steps to being aware?
Well, for me, it starts with personally. At least this is my journey. It started with, first of all, recognizing that everything is energy. So what you feel and the tension that you feel, there's all kinds of energy that's happening around you. So for me, that's the first step, is almost recognizing, when do I feel heightened, either excitement or anxiousness or that type of thing, and just being more aware of what's going on in my body is the first step to being more present, I think. And in order to do that, you need to first learn to pause. And I often tell friends the story of my parents gave me a bench swing for the backyard. And they were moving into a smaller place and they said, "Greg, you can borrow this." And I thought, what the heck are you giving me a swing for? I don't I'm busy. I got lots on my mind. And they gave me the swing and it sat out there for a couple months. And then I found myself up there one afternoon and I kind of fell asleep on it. And all of a sudden I realized, I woke up and actually there was a rabbit on my backyard. There were birds flying around. And I had this big aha about the importance of pausing and just slowing down. Because I'm a guy that's full all the time. I got to be full. I'm a 7 on the Enneagram. We'll talk about this later. And it's about filling myself up so I don't have to experience anything I don't like. But that makes me very successful and I get lots done. But I recognize that I was doing lots of stuff and I was at the same time missing a lot of stuff. So I would say one is learning to pause. And whether it's meditating, I use the app Calm every morning for 10 minutes. Other people read, some people go for walks in nature, but finding actually moments. It doesn't have to be a lot, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 15 minutes, to actually just pause and disconnect. There's a great quote by Anne Lamott that says, almost everything will work again if you unplug it for a few minutes, including yourself. I love that quote. Because you know, when something, your computer's not working or something's going to happen, what do? You unplug it.
Yeah.
Plug it in and start it up again, and it usually starts again. Well, we just need to be unplugged every once in a while. So finding ways to unplug, then just recognizing energy is everything. So, and when you're unplugged, you start to feel when you're getting excited or anxious and those types of things. And that's the second step, is just recognizing that in your body and calling it out, you know? So I know when I get anxious or excited, I rub my hands. My wife Josette laughs at me because when I start to do this, she knows my energy is building. And I've started to just recognize that and say, oh, I'm getting excited or I'm getting anxious about this. What is going on? So learning to pause, understanding that energy usually tells us something's going on in our body, and just being curious about that. Those for me are the first three things that we can do to be more present. It takes practice. You know, I still don't get it. I still sometimes go and do all kinds of stuff and miss stuff that's really important in front of me. But with these habits, it's helping me to be more focused and more present. And then I see things, you know, like I saw that morning on the swing, the birds, the hummingbird, the rabbit, the squirrel. I was shocked by all this. I was like in Little Eden or something, you know, like this really beautiful picture. And I never saw those things before. So how do we find more ways to do that, especially today when we're going through all the madness of COVID and strife that we're experiencing right now?
Yeah, that's amazing. Pausing, unplugging. It's sometimes it gets a little tough though. Even after, you know, I became aware and I started really, really living present, you know, it was initially a little tougher, always been in that reading. I don't know how you feel. What's a typical day like for you? I know it's pretty different. It can't all be the same, but I've had the opportunity of, you know, living with you for a couple of weeks, and I have an idea of what you do in the morning, but I don't want to say it for you. Can you share a little bit if you don't mind?
Yes, sure. So right now I'm a executive coach and consultant and do lots of work in those type of things. Plus I do volunteer stuff and that type of thing. So I naturally like to be filled up. And so I had to build in habits myself to do it. Because you're right, it's hard. And, you know, I've been very fortunate. In COVID, I have lots of friends that have been experiencing uber stress because they're involved in things. And I know we're going to talk about, BC's going to join later, but she's in HR. Oh my goodness, all my HR friends, there's no time. They're overloaded. So they're even more stressful. Some of my businesses slowed a bit because you're not meeting in person. So I've had more time, but generally, you know, I'm a guy who's up early, and I fill my day with coaching, with team building, with consulting in certain situations around change management. So I am full. I do podcasts. I do all these things. And I recognize that I need to craft out moments. So first of all, I start my day early by myself quietly. I do meditation. I do a little devotion. I do stretching. I breathe. I get set for the day. I have moments of gratitude to start out the day. And then I have reminders on my phone that pop up all the time that say, Greg, stop, breathe, acknowledge what's going on and present. And, you know, do I follow them every day? No, I miss them sometimes, you know, but it's putting those in. And then at the end of the day, I try to grab a space of time just to say, wow, what happened today? What was I grateful for? And what can I learn for? So those are my kind of three habits: start the day, a middle of the day pop up, and end the day. And am I consistent with it every day? No. Like you're saying, it's tough.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
I have great commitments and wanting to do all these type of things. But the more you do it, the more you just catch yourself a little bit sooner before you kind of go down that stressful place.
Yeah. So I think for me, one of the probably the greater things that have really helped me is the Enneagram testing. Oh
Mm,
no, I can't even imagine if I didn't do the testing and I didn't get a debrief from you. It's been amazing. So I want you to talk to my viewers. What's the Enneagram all about?
yeah. So so you're right. I love the Enneagram, right? And I'm certified in probably 8 tools. The Enneagram is my favorite. So the Enneagram is said to be over 3,000 years old. So first of all, that gets me kind of excited. It's also the model itself is found consistent across many traditions. They think it started in the Middle East somewhere, but it's across many traditions. And really what it does is it is a very deep tool that helps you understand what your innate gifts are that were originally activated through early fears. So, and it's pretty interesting because really what it does is the theory is that when your younger stuff happens, and as a result of that, we innately are able to tap into innate gifts that allow us to respond to those situations that are happening. And so something that's that deep is pretty cool. The other thing is it's got a mathematical formula in the middle of it that looks to
Yeah.
how you can find release and review. That to me, I'm not a mathy. My wife is the math expert, but I just love that too. It resonates with me as true. And I think almost every employee or every person that I've done the Enneagram with it's really resonated with them. So it's a tool just to say, hey, here's something that you're gifted naturally at, and it's probably helped you be successful up to this point, but it's not all you are. So part of the Enneagram is to say, hey, recognize this is an innate gift you have, a way that you approach things. And there's other stuff that you can tap into. And also there's healthy ways to be that type and unhealthy ways to be that type. So it's awareness again, and fits with regards to part of being more present is being more aware of who I am and how I respond. And the Enneagram is a great tool to help do that.
Wow, beautiful. One of your clients is about to join us. I think I should know the person and you should be able to recognize her too.
Hello.
Hey, BC.
Hi, BC.
Hi.
Thanks for joining us on Pari Soup. I've been talking with Greg, and we're talking about the Enneagram.
Yeah.
So Greg, I want to go back to you. BC will catch us in the flow. Can you quickly, briefly talk about the 9 types of Enneagram? I know it's a lot to do, but
I'll do a speed read of the 9 types, and there's lots of great tools on the internet for people to go and find this. But if you check the Enneagram, there are 9 types basically, and this is basically how people respond. So there's type number 1 is called the strict perfectionist. So these are folks that have an innate ability to see what's right and wrong, and they have to do what's right, but they just naturally know what's right or wrong, what's good and bad. And these are often called the perfectionists, right? So they're focused on that. And so that's a wonderful gift. But also it's tough on because they're toughest on themselves. They want to be most perfectionist themselves. So that's a 1. Number 2 is the considerate helper. The considerate helper, these folks have an innate gift of service. They have to be liked and appreciated. So why they serve is to be liked and appreciated, but they also have this natural gift of knowing when you need help and being able to serve in that way. So that's the 2s. The 3s, and there's one of us here that is a 3, is called the competitive achiever. So competitive achiever, they're folks that have to outshine the rest. And 2s, 3s, and 4s, their core desire and need is to be loved and accepted, and they do it in different ways. So the 2, they're accepted by serving. The 3, it's really they're accepted and loved by outshining the rest, by being successful. So we'll talk about BC later on. And really ambitious, competitive, practical, results-oriented, get stuff done. What a beautiful gift. And we'll talk about that healthy and unhealthy side of that too. But that's a 3. 4s, again, they want to be loved. They're in that feeling area. And they are called the intense creatives. So they have to be unique. So how they're loved and accepted is by being unique and different. Very creative people. They are emotional, sometimes dramatic, but these are pretty special people as well. So that's the 2, 3s, and 4s. 5, they're called the quiet specialists. And the 5, 6, and 7s, they're in what we call the thinking center. And so what they're mostly concerned about, their need is for safety, and they get it in 3 different ways. A 5 is called the quiet specialist. And these are folks that they feel safe through knowledge. So these are the folks you probably know that love to dig deep into information, because the more information they have, they will feel more safe. And they're thoughtful. They're more analytic, somewhat detached at times, sometimes, but these are pretty amazing folks. That's a 5. A 6 is the loyal skeptic. My wife Josette is a loyal skeptic, and we'll talk about that in 2 seconds. But so they have to be safe and belongs. So they're really concerned about that safety. And so 6s, they actually, how they feel safe is they think about all the things that could go wrong and figure out solutions for it. Amazing people to have, because they're excellent in crisis, but they just think of those things. So they can be somewhat anxious at times, somewhat doubting, but very responsible and dutiful. That's the 6. I'm a 7, so I'm again in that thinking category, but completely different from my wife, and we're going to talk about that in a couple of seconds. I'm an enthusiastic visionary, so how I feel safe is by filling myself up with activities and stuff, and basically I want to experience as much as possible, and mostly it's so I can avoid pain and feel safe. So I'm energetic, I am impulsive, I'm optimistic, and there's good sides to that and not so good sides to that. And the last one is, oh no, not the last, we got 2 more. 8 is active controller. These folks, so 8, 9s, and 1s, they're in the doing section. So they're doing section, and 8s, they have to be in control. So the active controller, these are folks that get stuff done, assertive, controlling, more direct, more confident. But what their biggest need is actually protect boundaries and respect. And the 8s, 9s, and 1s do that. Then we have 9. Ola, you're a 9. We'll talk about that. So remember, it's about respect and boundaries. That's their need, but the biggest need of an adaptive peacemaker is to keep the balance. So a more accommodating, easygoing, not assertive, diplomatic, sometimes conflict avoiding, but really create these beautiful safe spaces. So that's a very speedy review of the 9 types of the Enneagram. And we are 1 type, but we also have access to all of them. And that's kind of the key about the tools and learning about the Enneagram. Easy. It's just who I innately am. And the Enneagram allows you to dig deeper and say, well, why am I that way? And how do I show up and be able to find ways to work better together? So, I think, and we'll talk a little bit about the 3 and the 9s, that's like a perfect gift of 2 types to come together. If you recognize each of your unique ways of approaching the world and honor those unique ways and say, how do each of us help each other out by one being maybe a little bit more assertive and driven and focused, and one being more peaceful and able to see a broader picture and to slow down a bit. So both of those are good. And you guys have actually a beautiful combination. And I talk about my wife, Josette, she's a 6. So imagine me as a 7. I'm an enthusiastic visionary, and I look at all the bright side. I don't want to go any of the dark side, the sad stuff, the pain stuff, and that stuff. I always look at things that make what's possible. She first goes to all the things that could go wrong and thinks out the solutions. I always say that I would be dead a long time before here if it wasn't for Josette. And I also allow Josette to experience things, try things more, and that type of thing. But we only do that by recognizing that both of what we bring is a gift, and that it's actually an understanding each other and leveraging other that makes a difference. Doesn't mean we don't peeve each other off sometimes, because sometimes I think I drive Josette more nuts than she drives me. But boy, oh boy, sometimes. And you guys don't. I know that you guys are perfectly.
Oh no.
Okay, Bessie, let me just ask you those questions. When you got your debrief with regards to the Enneagram, and when I got mine, how would you say it has helped you so far?
Um, I think in terms of communication, it has helped a lot because, I'm able to understand who I am and who my husband is. And we're able to come to a decision where we can say, okay, these are your strengths, these are my weaknesses, and how can we, make the best of it and improve on ourselves. So I would say it has helped a lot in communication and the way we relate with each other. I mean, I always tell him this, that, I don't see myself with anybody else but you. And I don't mean that romantically. I mean that in terms of who he is, because as a nine, I can't, and as he's a nine, I'm a three. As a three, I can't imagine being married to a three or being married to an eight, because I have a combination. I'm a three with a stretch of eight in me, so I could come across as controlling and and being married to that same type of person would be disastrous. So I'm happy that, he's what he is, and that has helped to shape my understanding of our relationship and, how we get along with each other.
Okay, so I'm not driving you as crazy as I used to since the
No.
debrief. Okay, Greg. So I know this. I don't. When I was crafting this question, it sounded funny to me myself because I think we've had a chat about this. Sometimes, would you say it's better to have an idea of, let's say you do? Would you say it's better to do a debrief of the Enneagram before you get married or after marriage?
Well, I think like anything, it's good. Josette and I, we are married, and when we did our marriage preparation, a lot of that work was about understanding each other. So I do think it's wonderful if you can do it at that point, because then you know what you're getting into, and you actually can, because I think it just helps inform things better. And more and more young people actually are doing this kind of work earlier on in their relationships, because it just makes it so much better. We can, to your point, because all those times we can be peeved off at each other, it's not like we're trying to drive each other nuts. It's just who we are, and it's just recognizing the gifts that you bring. So yes, earlier the better, but Josette and I, it was after 30 years that we did the Enneagram. We did that early, so we did the earlier stuff in a marriage preparation, but I think the Enneagram would have helped earlier on. But I'll tell you that it's helped us as a couple just to understand a lot of what BC was saying. Then I begin to say, that's why Josette innately does that automatically. And boy, so by her thinking that, how do I need to think about it? So I always tell people that now when I'm working on business issues or even on life issues, I always say, Josette, what are you seeing that I'm not seeing? And she just has this whole different perspective, but it enriches what I see. And, talking about being more present, it allows me to have a broader perspective that I didn't have before. And so again, what it gives us is the language as a couple to talk to, because the language is consistent in the reports. And this is why I think so. I would, long answer to your questions, always better as early as possible. But hey, whenever you do it, just go in with an open view. It'll help, I think, at any time in a relationship.
Okay, so this is a 3 and I'm a 9, and from the little I've read and researched about 3 and knowing who I am as a 9, it looks to me that these are way two different persons. So so let's say you do a debrief before you get married, or maybe sometime whenever you get married, and in your coaching couples or people that have relationships and businesses, is there some sort of counsel you give to people with regards to what other wings of Enneagram types they can default to in relating with loved ones or business associates?
Yeah, well, what I find is first of all, again, we have access to all the types, and sometimes people get stuck on, you're a 3, you're a 9, you're a 7, but really we have access to all of them. It's just that over our lives, we have developed the one that's most innately connected to us. And so we build upon that one. So first of all, when I do Enneagram report or debrief, I make sure people see the whole picture and see you have other things to link into. The other thing with the Enneagram is that it has lines. I mentioned about that math formula. So when you look at the picture of the Enneagram, I don't know if you can see this picture, but this is the Enneagram is this. See, there's lines in the middle. People can see what that is. Yeah, there we're showing all our lines. They're mathematical lines. So there's this thing around where do you go to get through tough stuff? And there's release lines and provoke lines. And what's interesting between the 9 and the 3, the line is actually connected. So between you two in particular, you can actually go to those other areas. So as a 9, who maybe is a little bit slow on moving things and procrastinates on stuff, if they tap into their 3, or if their spouse is a 3, and they can actually ask them, hey, I need you to help me, encourage me, to push me forward, to move to action, and that type of thing, which I think you guys do, that is so awesome. For BC, going to a 9 is really about slowing down, not being so driven about gotta get things done, not being so worried about how I'm gonna look or how people are gonna see me. Going to someone who has a more of a broader view, that's a beautiful thing. So definitely you can tap into other parts of who you are to help shift and move things forward. So the Enneagram talks about wings, which are the numbers on both sides of you. So as a 9, it would be a 1 and an 8. But there, you can actually access a number of the different types to say, how do I pull on that to help me be more effective, more fully present, and in my relationships in the world. So definitely there's opportunities to go beyond your type. And if your spouse is a different type, what a beautiful way to see how does their differences help me be more healthy as a 9. So a 9 can be really healthy. The healthy 9s are somebody who does share their thoughts up front first, and then ensures everybody is there. Having a 3 behind you that's going to say, hey, how can I help encourage you and help you move to action and get beyond there? That's a beautiful thing.
Absolutely. I tell you the truth, Greg. I've been a 3 lately, and it's helped. I hope I can keep on with being a 3. Of course, the times will come when I just forget and I just go back into my shit.
Improved.
Thank you. Coming from you, that's big.
And I've learned to slow down.
Good.
Yeah. Good. Well, that's right. And you don't want to lose that beauty of a 9, which is that's such a peacemaker gift. Because you know, when you first meet Ola, when we first met, you're just a guy that you just kind of want to connect with because you see all what's going on. You feel what people are doing in the room. You're just a balancer of things. And that's a beautiful gift. And sometimes you also need to just kind of take things and move stuff forward and kind of drive to decision and go forward. And that's where strengthening your other types through coach and support of a spouse that happens to be that type is a good thing.
Yeah, you know, one of the best things that has happened to me becoming aware of my type of personality is, which I think if I'm to say, okay, what have I improved on the most, is about being able to give my opinions and not keeping my opinions to myself. Like, you know, sometimes people hurt you, people want to, as a 9, I feel sometimes people want to take you for a ride because you rather let someone else to be right, even when you know you're right, and you just keep quiet. So, you know, I've been practicing, and it's really helped my sanity, my mental health. You know, it's helped me to come out of some of my depressed states, being able to, you know, alter my opinion in small circles, in larger circles. Even sometimes when I don't alter it, the fact that in my mind I can say, oh, this is what I think, even if I don't say it to the person, it's really helped a lot.
Well, remember, because a 9 is really, it's about boundaries and wanting to keep the peace and wanting to avoid conflict. And because of that, you've created a great gift of ensuring people's voices come up so that a good resolve comes to it. But if you aren't aren't able to voice your own stuff, then you just kind of back away from that. So that is awesome that you're, strengthening that to be even a fuller nine. A fuller nine is someone who still allows other voices to be heard, but also brings their voice forward and their ideas forward, because they know that the best solutions, the best way the best way to deal with conflict is to go through it and to be a part of that voice to get through it. And that's kind of cool of part of recognizing who we are and what we need to kind of just build up a little bit to be our fuller self.
Okay, BC, before I let you go, I just wanted to ask if you wanted to chip in something. You have a question for Greg?
Well, not a question, just maybe what I've learned from my Enneagram, type, and cohabiting with Ola is kind of, I've learned to delegate. That's one thing that I've learned. I mean, at home, even things as little as getting things done, I want to do this, do that. And now I've learned to allow the kids to help out, allow Ola to help out, and just breathe. And it has really helped me a lot.
I love that, because of course as a 3, you feel pretty good about checking off those lists, and the lists go slower to be checked off if you allow. You think they're going to be slower if you let the kids take on stuff or all that, but actually they don't slow down, and it gives you so much space. And I love that description of the gift of learning to breathe. That's a beautiful growth and learning.
All right. Thank you, BC, for joining us.
You.
Hope you can get back to work quickly. Bye. Okay, Greg, it's now left to us. So let me just go up, still talking about relationships and, relating to people, especially in the global perspective. I know you have quite a number of friends and acquaintances who are Black, African Americans, Africans, and people from all over the world who are not even Black and stuff. But I know you recently made your first trip to Africa. Yeah. Tell me about your trip. What were the highlights?
Oh, that was such an awesome. And I one of my good friends actually lives in Kenya, and he's been trying to get me to go for a long time. And again, being a 7, I'm full and busy and doing all those types of things. And I've always wanted to go to Africa. And this, it was an Enneagram conference actually, and it came available. It was in Cape Town, and so I just leapt at it and I said, this is what I'm going to do. And with my sister and brother-in-law and we went to Cape Town, and this is my first venture into Africa. And what an amazing experience! What an amazing! I mean, I am like I've always wanted to go, and now I just want to go back and explore more parts of such a vast and interesting continent. But it was. So we went to the Enneagram conference, and then we actually had a chance to go to a reserve that they had built close to Botswana border. That is where that we went on a safari kind of reserve that the South African country had built to support the animals and the community, which I loved. It was like it's run by the community, and so that was my other part of the experience.
So, before we talk deeply about some of your experience, I know you met someone who was into some type of NGO thing. Before we talk about that, what did Cape Town look like? I've never been to South Africa, but I've heard about its beauty.
I have. It's actually, to me, it is the most beautiful place in the world. And what's beautiful about it for me was the diversity of the area. And I mean, within 2.5 hours drive either way, you move from what looks like you're in the vineyards of France to then you move into what looks like kind of, I don't know, from my experience, Hawaii or like Cape Town metropolitan city that has all the, I mean, like a rodeo drive in the middle of it kind of thing to, just massive beauty. And then you move and you feel like you're in Scotland because it's just the barren lands down by the Cape. but in this barren space, there are more plants anywhere in the world. And, so it's just within this whole space, there's just so much beauty and different landscapes and cultural differences in that. So I was just blown away by the whole thing. And then, of course, having the chance to go to Johannesburg and then up to the area by Botswana. Again, a completely different, and just people were so friendly and welcoming and connecting. It was just a beautiful experience.
And you made a connection with Priscilla and organization.
Yeah, so Priscilla was interesting. So we, at the last minute, we changed our hotels and we went to a smaller family-run hotel in Johannesburg. And I was tired in that, and they had massage there. And so I went in for massage, and I met Priscilla. And Priscilla had her own massage business, and she was working for this hotel. And I just got talking to her, and one of those kindred spirits that you kind of connect with. And I just knew right away she was such a special person. We got talking about everything, and my wife would say that's not a surprise. Greg talks with everybody, but we just got a really great connection. Then I met with her afterwards and found out that she had started this program where she would take groups of kids to the bush to a camping that were in Johannesburg, and so didn't have exposure to the camps outside and kind of going. She would take them out, and they would spend weekends in a safe space that would create connection to the earth, to the nature, what's around there, but also played games, created things together. I think it was originally set up through her church. And so I immediately, of course, got excited about it and helped to support them in a little bit way. But she was just doing it. They do this every year. They take groups of, I think it's 12 to 20 kids just outside the city, but really to get out of the space that they're in. And what a beautiful expression. And she also was, as part of her being a registered massage therapist, was doing work with the elderly and people so she just one of those beautiful people that you just aspire to. And so Priscilla, I just aspired to who she was and how she just took her gifts and contributed back to all these different things. So I could talk about her for hours. And we still Zoom. She did the Enneagram. She's a 2.
Oh, really? She's a 2.
Yeah, so big surprise there. But she also, we connect. I text her or email back and forth. She's right in the midst of COVID and trying to restart her business right now. So we were saying, is there anything we can do? Who do I know in Johannesburg that wants an amazing massage therapist? So I'm figuring out ways how I can, whoever I know there, I can kind of hook up to her to restart her business. So
yeah, wow, that's amazing. There's so much human resources in Africa. When I was thinking of some of the topics that I could bring up to get you to talk about, one of the ones that really came to my heart, apart from this one that we're talking about, is to talk about human capacity, human resources, how important it is for a nation, for a family, for a community. And maybe sometimes in the future we can take on that topic. But I know that there's so many passionate people around the world, especially in Africa, with very specific and very interesting energies.
Oh, I agree. Well, the Enneagram has exploded there because it really touches something deeper, so I think people are really excited about it going forward. And I would agree. Boy, the capability and capacity of the folks that I met, just wow! How do you release that? How do you find ways in supporting, like Priscilla's doing with those kids?
Yeah.
I just finished a book called, hasn't been published yet, but In Search of Safe, Brave Spaces.
I was going to talk about that.
But it's a simple construct that says, you know what, how do we create places that are first safe for people, that they can discover themselves, that they can understand themselves and become confident in who they are and bring their natural gifts forward. And then equally create brave spaces where they actually can voice who they are and bring and express their full selves forward. And honestly, as I've toured into different places and worked in different places, and Priscilla would be a great example of that, as someone who is just innately creating safe, brave spaces for those kids, or even for me. When she was doing the massage and then talking afterwards, I felt confident. I felt I could voice things and a safety, but also be able to just kind of declare what I thought. You know, it's pretty cool. So I think the more that we can figure this out in your homes, in your relationships, across continents, in communities, of creating this safe, brave spaces, I think that's going to be a pretty cool thing.
Yeah, absolutely. When the book is out, you're gonna have to come back and talk to me about it. I know that having privilege to, you know, even before the book, you start putting pen to paper, I've been privileged to learn and use some of your ideas with regards to safe, brave spaces and living my own life. And I'm privileged to be able to do that.
Well, you know, and I learned from those around me. So the book is often about failures, the things that I went through are tough things. You talked earlier about the low points in life. And funny thing is, sometimes in the low points of life, you have to be present, and you discover those the people around you that actually surround and are just present with you and support you out of that. And so, you know, some of the book is those things around how have others come around you, and you know, like you and BC in my life have strengthened me in so many ways as well. And I've hopefully contributed to helping you guys and strengthen, you know, just in our partnership and our friendship. Those are things that's what life's about. Yeah. Not the go. It's about being present with each other, hanging out. And
you know, when I was writing out those questions, I deliberately skipped out on talking about how much you've impacted me and BC and my family, because you don't want to see a crying interviewer. So I just want to say thank you. You know how I feel about you anyway.
Well, but it's both ways, right? And this is when we actually just get these privileged opportunities to meet new people, connect with friends that we've not known, but are just kind of come together. That's so important. I think one of the things that COVID and everything, it's created a deeper desire for connectivity in a deeper way, either because we haven't been able to connect with people, or because we're so overloaded busy that we just desire, or because we've slowed down and we don't have things. We recognize that, wow, how special it is that we have these friendships, these family members, those things.
So I remember that when you traveled to South Africa, it was sometimes around maybe when the xenophobia attacks was going down. I don't know, did you witness any attacks, any violence when you were in South Africa?
I didn't, and honestly, you know, I was fortunate because, partially I recognize the privilege of where I was staying and the places I was doing and that type of thing. But honestly, the people that I met were mostly just really good, beautiful people. So I did not actually recent experiences, although I know they were around there and there were some bubbling things that were going on. So
okay. So when's your next trip to Africa? Any plans yet?
Well, you know what, my wife, being the sixth, of course, I'm not tied to a desk, but like she's concerned about risk and those types of things. I think unfortunately it will be a while. There is another follow-up conference next year, but I know that if I go next year, I've got actually some folks that I know in Ethiopia and some folks that I know in Kenya, and now I've got extended family members in Nigeria. So there's no bloody way I'm going to have to just go back to South Africa, because I'll be in so much trouble that if I'm over on the continent, I haven't stopped. So This trip I was originally going to try and stop about 3 different places, but
Okay.
I thought I would just, so, hopefully, I think there's a birthday coming up in a few years that I'm invited to
Yeah.
Lagos. So that one I'll be there for sure. So, yeah.
Oh no, it's been so good talking to you on this platform. I know we've spoken a lot, from coffee shops to different restaurants. We've taken this conversation around Toronto and around the GTA, but now doing it on Zoom for the whole world to see. And I believe it's the beginning of so many conversations to come. Thank you so much, Greg, for talking to me on Paris Pursuit.
It is an honor to be a part of this. I'm so excited about what you're doing and the movement you're creating and the energy that you're sending out to folks. I'm so excited. I'm just so glad I could be a part of it.
Thank you. My love to Josette.
All right. Take care. Love the
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.